News and views with myself, Salailo Makwidi, right here on your home of humanitarian journalism, Salam Media. We're now going to be turning our attention to the question of moral courage in academia and whether silence is ever truly neutral in the face of atrocity. Over 200 members of the Stellenbosch University community, including professors, staff, and students, have signed an open letter calling on the university to take a clear public stand against what they describe as a genocide unfolding in Gaza. I think at this point we can all agree that it is a genocide. What's happening in Gaza is a live stream genocide. We're all witnessing it in true fashion. We live streamed on our cell phones and on TV. They point out to other South African universities who have come out quite vocal about condemning Israel about their actions in Gaza. Universities like the Nelson Mandela University, the University of Cape Town, and the University of Western Cape, all of them who have passed resolutions calling for a ceasefire and condemning the Israeli assault on Palestinians. Stellenbosch, by contrast, has remained institutionally silent. The signatories argue that the university, given its apartheid history and its stated commitment to restitution, has a particular moral responsibility to stand for human rights and against the crimes being committed in Gaza. So, why has Stellenbosch not acted? And what would a principled response from the institution actually look like? Joining us now is Senkosi Nuku. She's the chairperson of the Palestinian Solidarity Forum at Stellenbosch University, and she'll help us to discuss what's at stake and Palestinian solidarity in Stellenbosch University. Senkosi, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate being here.
The pleasure's all ours. I think we can kickstart the conversation with what exactly does the statement from various organizations and communities at the Stellenbosch University calling for regarding this genocide in Gaza? What do you want the university to say and do about it?
Well, essentially, we all reiterate the calls that are being called for globally is we all want institutions to take a public stance on whether or not they stand with Israel, they stand with Palestine. But moreover, we want them to stand with Palestine because we recognize what's happening in Palestine is a humanitarian crisis. So as academics and scholars, we would like for our institution to take a stand, to stand for Palestine instead of saying it through the corners or through whispers, to be bold and brave and to stand with their values of Ubuntu and excellence, that you choose to stand with humanity as opposed to standing or to siding with institutions where you profit financially.
Definitely. And I think what was interesting for me is the fact that unlike other universities, the closest ones, UCT, University of the Western Cape, and Nelson Mandela University, Stellenbosch has not taken an institutional position like you mentioned. Why do you believe the university has remained silent on Gaza for this long?
There's a multitude of factors that come into why our university chooses to be neutral. I mean, our university has been neutral since back in the days of apartheid, where whenever there was problems or whenever there was humanitarian issues, Stellenbosch always chose to keep quiet, and particularly because it is very much an echo chamber of the town and it doesn't ever want to really address current issues or issues of contention. I think Stellenbosch always wants to maintain a very neutral stance to preserve either its identity or its relations with other institutions, whether they benefit financially or network-wise. It never wants to jeopardize those kinds of relationships. Whereas other universities, which we have utmost respect for, where it's UWC and it's UCT, who continue to stand against issues such as genocide, they 100% respect the fact that throughout so much in history or throughout all of the current events that have already occurred, it is imperative that we stand against issues such as this. It is imperative that we stand as a nation together to say, no, what's happening right now is atrocious. We cannot allow for it to happen. We are breaking international law. Stellenbosch University very much wants to preserve its relationships, wants to preserve its image, and wants to preserve its quiet town vibe, essentially.
Mhm. One of the most powerful arguments that was made in that letter to the institution is about Stellenbosch's apartheid history. You touched on it a bit, and also about its 2018 restitution statement. How does the university's past connect to its present moral obligations?
Well, I mean, if you look at what's happening in Gaza, particularly, look at what happened in South Africa, you can see parallels. The easiest like an example I can think of, sorry, is the idea of you not being able to be in certain areas without having a pass. What we see in Gaza is there are certain areas of land in which Palestinians are not allowed to be there unless they have permission to be there. Whereas in South Africa, what happened was you need a specific pass to get into certain areas of the country. So what we see is we can draw parallels as to what is currently happening right now and what has happened in the past. And we're saying, as a nation that has gone through apartheid, that has recognized the atrocities, that has recognized how horrible it is and how bad it is to treat people in such a humane manner, we cannot say that we've reached democracy or even transformative constitutionalism, or even as a nation that has come from such humanitarian issues or humanitarian crises, as you could put it. We cannot say that we've grown from that if we are allowing what is happening in Gaza to continue happening, although we know exactly it happened. We are connected by the history of our own country and what is currently happening in Gaza.
No, definitely. And I think those parallels are not spoken about enough, because no other country in the world has the word apartheid be used and described as a humanitarian as a crime against humanity, except for us and Gaza. The university in itself, their response has been the fact that they're saying they value academic freedom, and that taking a position on the genocide in Gaza would infringe on academic freedom. How do you respond to this idea that neutrality is a form of safeguarding dialogue in a way?
You know, the idea of academic freedom as well as freedom of association has been arguments that have been placed quite often by various scholars and staff members for specifically that saying that they're going to protect freedom of speech. However, we cannot use that argument when it comes to matters such as this. We cannot use the idea of neutrality to preserve academic freedom when we can clearly see that what is happening is 100% a crime against humanity. We cannot choose to be neutral, because when you are being neutral, you're automatically standing with the oppressor. There is no if or and or about it. There's no other way around it. Your silence is aiding the oppressor to continue oppressing people. So why don't you use your academic freedom to write against what is going on and to empower the people whose voices are actively being silenced? That is our stance on it. And that is why we have come together as scholars, as staff members, to call for the institution as a whole, the academic institution as a whole, to stand for Palestine.
I want us to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to get the student sentiment on campus and what that looks and feels like. Are more young people becoming more engaged with Palestine solidarity, or is there still fear and almost a reluctance of some sort to speak out? But we'll touch on that a bit after the short break.
All right.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations reservations. Call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Albeit Lodge, your true home away from home. Albeit is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Albeit has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albeitlodge.co.za.
Searching for elite local and international investment and advisory services from an award-winning firm? Look no further than the Belmont Meyer Group, your gateway to unparalleled investment and wealth management. At Belmont Meyer, we believe in the art of wealth creation, a meticulous process fueled by our unwavering commitment to excellence. With a focus on providing elite alternative investments and quality advice, we also pride ourselves on maximizing value for our esteemed investors, as seen through our consistent outperformance. Your financial success is our top priority. Join us at Belmont Meyer and experience the difference firsthand. Ready to embark on a journey of greatness? Contact us today. Reach out to the Belmont Meyer Group on 078 786 1698. Call or WhatsApp or email us at info@belmontmayer.com. Elevate your financial future with Belmont Meyer, where every detail matters.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. And if you're just joining us, we're in the middle of a very, very powerful conversation with Senkosi Nuku. She's the chairperson of the Palestine Solidarity Forum at Stellenbosch University. And we've been unpacking the growing pressure on Stellenbosch to break its silence and take a principled stance on the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Senkosi, thank you so much for staying with us. I really, really appreciate you giving us your time. And before we went on that short break, I wanted us, to focus on, I think, something that's very, very important, to focus on the sentiment on campus. Are more young people becoming engaged with Palestine solidarity, or is there still fear and reluctance to speak out? We've heard, people getting cancelled because they speak out for Palestine. We've heard people not getting opportunities because some employers go through their social media platforms and see what they've been posting and what they've been participating in, and Palestine has been one of those issues. Has this seen the number of students, the number of young people in the university not participate as much in Palestine solidarity activities on campus?
Well, in spite of the notion of being cancelled for standing for Palestine, in spite of the silence, in spite of the continuous arguments for remaining neutral, students continuously choose to stand for Palestine in spite of resistance from other students, of course. Resistance will always exist. Whenever it comes to resistance movements or revolutionary movements, whenever we are fighting for the rights of others, there will be some sort of form of resistance that comes. However, students are extremely courageous in that there have been marches, there have been protests, there have been social media posts There was even a silent study that was held last year by Student Action for Palestine. We continue to stand for Palestine in spite of every single thing or every single challenge leveled against us, because we recognize that if we do not stand against what the government of Israel is doing currently, we would have failed the Palestinian people, and we would be part and parcel of everyone else in history who stayed silent and allowed for so many people to endure such atrocious circumstances, although the whole world was watching. I don't think we've ever been in a more unique situation in terms of genocide as we are now, because it's being live streamed. You see updates of a genocide every single day. And fortunately for this generation, we are all chronically online. We see it all the time. So it is almost impossible for you to not feel something or feel the need to speak up when you're continuously seeing children crying online, children being bombed, women being bombed, hospitals being bombed. There is a deep-seated need internally as students for us to speak up, and we continue to do so in spite of our institutions being silent.
No, definitely. On the letter, that was signed and presented to the university. One of the calls that were made were cutting ties with Israeli academic institutions, with Israeli academics and lecturers who are complicit in human rights violations. How is Israel and some of its higher institutions of learning entrenched in within Stellenbosch University? Are there relationships with Israeli academic institutions? And what would the cutting of ties with those institutions, with those academics in real practical terms look like, and why is it so important?
Well, there are various ways in which our university is affiliated with Israeli institutions and academics. For example, last year, if I recall correctly, there was an academic whom, unfortunately, I have forgotten the name, who had come or who had intended to come to the institution to speak, right? Specifically, I think about the medical situation happening in Gaza. And we found it particularly ironic that you would bring an Israeli academic to speak about the medical crisis going on in Gaza, knowing very well that the medical crisis going on in Gaza is due to Israel continuously bombing Gaza. Or, for example, accepting funding from companies who openly stand with Israel, despite open calls globally for us to boycott Israel, to not stand against what is going on and to stand against the genocide. Our institution has continued to nurture these kinds of relationships, has continued to work with the companies that are standing with Israel and accept funding from them, bringing computers. And they have this continuous thing of ignoring the global cause and even calls from us as students on campus in order to maintain these financial relationships and these relationships with academics. So what we're saying is there actually is no need for you to bend over backwards to maintain these relationships when you can clearly see what is happening with a humanitarian crisis. And we have been saying, stop standing with Israel. You accepting funds from companies that stand with Israel is you saying you stand with Israel indirectly. So what we're saying is, stand with Palestine, stop accepting funding, stop bringing Israeli academics, and how about for once, actually take a proper, actual stand for something good. It's not necessarily saying that Stellenbosch has not done good at all. But we're saying in terms of history, you have been extremely neutral. So for once, could you please just say something and stand for Palestine openly so that you can actually look good in the eyes of the public?
No, definitely. Just lastly, before I let you go, if the university leadership were listening right now, what would your message be to them, be as a student and also as a member of this pro-Palestine solidarity community on campus?
It is not enough to advocate for neutrality. In fact, it is morally irresponsible to advocate for neutrality in such a kind of crisis, in a genocide. Actually, it is actually morally irresponsible for the institution to claim to uphold values of Ubuntu when they're not standing with the global communities, particularly Palestine. So what we are asking is, please take a stand for Palestine, stop affiliating with companies that stand with Israel, Israeli products, or Israeli academics, and please just stand up for Palestine. That's all we're asking for. That is already a step forward, a huge step forward for our institution. That's all we're calling for.
No, definitely. Senkosi Nuku, thank you so much for joining us. Really enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, all the best.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
There you go. That was Stellenbosch Palestine Solidarity Forum Chairperson Senkosi Nuku. And yeah, their call is simple one. It's for their university to come out and speak for Palestine, to speak in solidarity with Palestine, especially as a previously white institution in South Africa. I think they should have the moral courage in academia to speak out on Palestine. And it would be interesting how they respond to that. There's been over 200 members of the Stellenbosch University community, including professors, staff, and students who have signed an open letter calling on the university to take a clear public stand against what we know and what we're seeing to be a genocide unfolding in Gaza. And yeah, what's interesting is the pointing of neighboring universities, universities like Nelson Mandela University, the University of Cape Town, and the University of the Western Cape, all of whom have passed resolutions calling for a ceasefire and also unequivocally condemning the actions of Israel in Gaza. And yeah, we hope that universities, especially those that are previously white universities, legacy universities, actually redress and understand what speaking out for Palestine essentially does, not just for the people of Palestine but for them as an institution, because I think it speaks on restitution, it speaks on understanding and knowing the history of South Africa, and as Senkosi mentioned there, the parallels between Palestine and South Africa. So if you can't accept that there's a genocide in Palestine, if you can't accept that there's an apartheid which is perpetuated against the people in Gaza and the settlements, the illegal settlements that have been put in place by this Israeli regime, if you're not recognizing that there's an apartheid, a genocide, and a clear human right violations of proportions that we've never seen before as an institution, then what does it say about you? What does it say about you recognizing that in South Africa, we've had an apartheid? In South Africa, there's restitution that needs to be made. In South Africa, there's still systems in place in academia that still hold black and brown people to be at the bottom of the barrel in those institutions, whether it's in management or it's in lecture rooms themselves. So I think it's more about Palestine, but in a lot of ways, it is about South Africa and us still trying to find our feet after 1994 and us being a post-democratic South Africa, which is principled on human rights, everyone being equal under the law and opportunities being presented to everyone despite their color, creed, or sex. So good initiatives taken there by Senkosi Nuku and the PSF team. This is a story that we'll be watching very, very keenly, especially the response from Stellenbosch University and how they're receiving these news. Will they listen, or will they bow down to the pressure like other universities across the world, not just in South Africa, is bowed down to? We know that majority of the funding of universities in South Africa does come from the United States of America, does come from organizations affiliated with the Israeli regime. And most of them are scared. They're scared that if we do speak out, if we voice out, there's a genocide happening in Palestine, and we do cut ties, whether it's academic ties or it's business ties with institutions and companies that are supporting this regime, then it means, we'll suffer the consequences thereof and financial consequences. And we know just how badly funded universities in South Africa are. So yeah, really interesting story. And Stellenbosch University will definitely be keeping an eye on you, because there's a moral obligation. And in a country like South Africa, you can't just choose to keep quiet, especially when there's a genocide unfolding. We have come to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a brilliant 2 hours and 4 minutes. If you've missed any of the conversations that we've had, you can head over to our website, www.salammedia.com. They are all podcasted. They are articles that are curated by our wonderful online team led by Zaid Jadwad, and they're writing about all the topics that we've had. If you don't have time to listen, you can just read a quick article, or you can check out the podcast. We're going to leave it here for now. I'll be back with you again tomorrow for the Thursday edition of the show. But I'm not leaving you like that. I'm leaving you with my favorite segment of the show. It's called #FireUp with Hafez Imran Chunara. He's the CEO of Africa Muslims Agency. He's also a personal excellence coach. And he gives us topics, I think 3 times a week, where he gets you fired up, he gets you excited, it gets you motivated for the week ahead or for whatever challenge that you're currently grappling with. And today's topic from the #FiredUp segment is burnouts are self-inflicted. Ooh. Take a listen. I'll be listening from myself, Salalo Makwidira, and the rest of the team. Sharp, sharp.